Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on Microsoft Fabric's Copilot. Thank you so much for joining us as we explore how this AI-powered partner for data analytics and business intelligence can change the way you manage data. So for those of you who are new, my name is Danielle, and I'll be your host today. And today we're going to explore how Copilot is transforming the way businesses interact with data, making it faster, making workflows smarter, and decision-making more impactful than ever before. So before we dive into this session, I just want to share a few housekeeping notes with you guys. Firstly, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with all attendees soon. Also, you can feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any time. We'll be answering them real time throughout the session. If there's a question that requires a bit more detail, we'll save it for the end so we can spend some time answering it. And finally, yes, there are prizes and really good ones, if I may say so myself. So pay really close attention to what we're going to share with you today because we'll have a live quiz at the end. So before we begin, I just want to share a bit about our presenters today and what the agenda looks like. So firstly, we have Stefania Peters. He's our data engineer here at Davyn. And he would be assisted by Jade, one of our talented data analysts. So they will be walking you through the capabilities of Copilot and Fabric and how it's reshaping the experience for data users at every level. So here's a quick look at what we will be covering here today. So firstly, we have an introduction to Copilot in Microsoft Fabric, just to give you a refresher, or if you're not sure what it is or how it works, just to get a fundamental understanding of the solution. Then we'll move on to Copilot across key workloads, from data flows to reports and models. After that, we'll move on to Data Activator and Data Agents, where we'll show you how easy it is for non-technical persons to do more with your data. And finally, we'll move on to pricing and activation, where we'll show you how to enable Copilot and AI features in your environment and what the costing would look like for a company like yours. All right, so now we can begin. Without any further ado, I'll hand you over to Stefania to get us started. So Stefania, whenever you're ready.
A pleasant good morning to everyone. And to those who've seen that video before, I am sorry for bringing it back again if you've seen it too many times. For those who've never seen it, this is your introduction into Microsoft Copilot within Microsoft Fabric. But before we get into fully what Copilot is doing for us, I want us to take a step back. Why are we taking a step back? Because we are in a world where everybody needs analytics. Everybody needs to analyze some bit of information for their company to get these intelligent insights, to make impactful decisions, especially now. However, that desire to have insights, leads you down a path where you have to choose the right tool. Now, for most of us, the easiest tool is Excel. It's just natural. We just gravitate to Excel. For those who never used Excel, well, I'm sorry, you're missing out, but you would have used Excel at some point in time. But Excel can only get you so far. Those who want to be a little bit more complex started using things like SQL Server. And right now, if we look at this slide here, this is a picture of all the different data solutions that you can use to get analysis within your organization. And why do you choose one over the other? Why would you decide to go with vendor 4 instead of vendor 3? Or why would you choose vendor 2 for your storage and vendor 1 for your ingestion of data? And for those who need a specific amount of compute, they know that vendor 4 will give them that level of compute. And then you need to take that data and share it with different people within your organization. But you have to take information from one cloud to another cloud. So you're exposing your company to data risk. That interoperability doesn't always flow the way you want it to. You end up with multiple copies of your data. If that's sounding like where you are today, then that's the reason why Microsoft focused on bringing these things together. So, few iterations before we got Microsoft Fabric, Microsoft had what they call the Intelligent Data Platform. And that would have had things like Power BI, SQL Server, Azure SQL. You'd have had a data warehouse solution in Azure as well. You'd have then been able to pull all of your data into some sort of operational database and then have Power BI do reports on that. However, Microsoft also recognized that to do that, you were having multiple analytical services still within the Microsoft space. You had disconnected data sources, you had isolated applications. And well, of course, when we stepped into the area of ChatGPT, we started bolting on ChatGPT and different systems. So Microsoft Fabric now allows you to move from these multiple systems into one unified stack. It brings you across into one data estate. Now, this sounds probably too good to be true, but it's actually true and it's getting better. When Fabric first became generally available, and I think it's around November 2023, there were some areas that were still in preview, some areas that were still in testing. But as we've gotten into 2025, a lot has changed, a lot has improved. So the current stack for Microsoft Fabric looks something like this. So you will have your data where you pull your data through Data Factory, be it from your Excel files, be it from your application services within your organization, be it from some third-party cloud environment where you probably have your website hosted, or even pulling from your social media accounts. You'll then analyze that data using the analytics stack within Microsoft Fabric, creating either a data warehouse for your structured data or a lakehouse for those files that we mentioned coming out, or that information coming out of your social media, and then you create a Power BI report. Now, all of that data is residing in one lake. And the benefit of having all that data residing in one lake is that one, you can secure it and govern it with Microsoft Purview, and two, Copilot sits on top of it. So if Copilot is sitting on top of your data, Copilot can then respond to your data. Now, why are we focusing in it that way? Because in every workload within Microsoft Fabric, Copilot gives you a specific type of assistance. So the Copilot in Data Factory is going to help you transform your data, is going to help you better understand the complex task in transforming that data, bringing it into something simpler. If you want to use Copilot in your real-time intelligence, it helps you understand your KQL queries. If you want to use it for your databases, it streamlines your AI application development. For your analytics stack, this is either in the data engineering space, data science, or the data warehouse. It allows you to generate code in notebooks, be it T-SQL notebooks or Spark notebooks. And for those who don't care anything about that side of the world and just require Power BI, Copilot helps you quickly create report pages and gives you that natural language summary that you could then sit down in a meeting and look like you really know what you're talking about. Now, to help us really see this in action, the video did part of it, but we want to move away from the video. We want to go into an actual demo of it. And I'm going to ask my colleague Jade to take us on this journey of one of a fictitious company that we've created to more or less give you a guide into this world of Copilot and AI in Microsoft Fabric.
Thank you, Stefania, and good morning, everyone. I am Jade, the data analyst at Davyn, and I'll be taking you all through the demo portion of our presentation. So as Stefania would have mentioned, Megastar Distribution Center, or MSD, is a fictional business that deals with inventory, warehousing, and sales data. The business specializes in office supplies, and it has locations in 4 Caribbean countries: Aruba, Bahamas, Cuba, and Dominica. So for this demo, we'll be looking at Copilot in their existing Fabric environment. And this environment would have been built using Fabric workloads such as Data Factory, data engineering, and data warehousing, and of course, Power BI. So just to give you a little bit of insight, Data Factory would have been used to ingest the business's data from sources such as files and databases. Data engineering and data warehouse would have been used to create the data warehouse and lakehouse for MSD, as well as to store the data, query it, and curate their data. And of course, Power BI would have been used to visualize and analyze data into actionable insights to help the business improve their operations. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and we will get started with the live demo. Could you all please confirm that you are seeing my screen?
Yes, it's visible, Jane.
Okay, great. So for a quick second, this diagram that you see at the top here would be a data flow that we have. And it shows us basically all of the steps that would have been taken to create the environment that MSD has. To the collect data task. And you'll see all of my items would have filtered at the bottom. So we are going to go into the order data flow. And while my data flow is loading, I'll just give you a bit of a background. So typically, the data factory workload is used by a data engineer. But let's say you're new to MSD or you're a non-technical person or you just don't have that much experience as a data engineer. What do you do? So that's where Copilot comes in to help you. And let's see, in this case, we have the order state. Let's say we wanted to centralize MSD's orders based on branches, but we don't know how to use this environment that much. If we use Copilot, we can simply ask Copilot to group the order table records by country. So I'm going to paste that prompt into the Copilot pane over here. And I'm going to hit send. And Copilot should do most of the work for me, if not all of it. So we had a little bit of an error there, and that may have been because the table was still loading. So I'm just going to paste back the prompt and resend it. Okay, great. So yes, in future, if anybody is using Copilot, give the queries a chance to load properly. So Copilot added a step called group by, and here we're seeing the countries and we're seeing this orders column. So I'm going to click on the arrows so that I can expand the table. And we already have country. So I'm going to bring in all of these columns of data except country and hit OK. And what we should see here when it's loaded is that all of our orders are now grouped by country. And how do we know it's grouped by country? Is because we're seeing orders for Dominica with dates in 2023, 2021, 2024, etc. And if I wanted to double check and make sure, I could use the drop down on the country column, load more, and I can now select Aruba, for example. And once this loads, we should just see orders for Aruba. Okay, great. So we're seeing that Copilot did the work for us. We just had a little bit of expanding to get exactly what we wanted. So I'm going to clear this step, and then I'm going to close the data flow. But before I do that, if you are finished transforming your data here, you can hit publish so that the changes are saved. But for the purpose of my demo, I am not going to save the changes. I'm just going to close the data flow and return to our workspace. So from here, we are going to go into the warehouse, and the warehouse would be under the store data task. And I'd like to just point out that right now we are using Copilot in Fabric. So if I click on the Fabric logo, you'll see Power BI. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, we are going to go into MSD's warehouse. So I'm going to click on the Analytics warehouse. And again, this workload is typically used by data engineers, but again, you could be less experienced or you could be new to the environment. And that's where Copilot would come in to help you. So I'm going to just click on Copilot. I'm going to get started. And let's say we wanted to check how much of a particular product ID would have been ordered across all of the branches that MSD has for the last 2 years. Rather than me having to figure out how to write the SQL code for that, what I can do is I can simply ask Copilot what quantity of product 0011 was ordered in the past 2 years across all countries. So I'm going to send that prompt and we'll see what Copilot does. So Copilot created the SQL script for me. And if I click on insert code, it automatically brings up a new query and pastes the code for me. So when I run this script, it may take a few seconds, just bear with me. But in the meantime, I'll just point out that any script that you are working on in Fabric is automatically saved under your queries. So you'll see SQL query 4, which is the query that we just pasted in from Copilot. And it's returned a result of 2,221. So that tells us that for the last 2 years, across all of the countries that MSD operates from, 2,221 products of that type would have been sold. So does anybody have any questions here? No questions. So let's say now we wanted to further break down this number to see how much would have been ordered by country as well as where would have had the highest demand. Rather than having to go edit the script myself, I could just ask Copilot to break it down by country and sort by the highest demand. And most likely, Copilot is going to give me a new script. And it did. So what I'll do is I will clear this script and I'm going to insert the code. And we will run it as soon as it's finished catching itself. I'm going to try running it just in the interest of time. Okay, so we now have a breakdown of the countries and the quantities that would have been ordered. And this is for the same product that we would have been initially working with, as you can see here. So we're seeing that Aruba would have had the highest demand, followed by Dominica and Bahamas and Cuba, but we're also seeing the amount of the product that would have been ordered. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to close the warehouse. We will close this for now. And we are going to go back to our workspace. And we will go into the lake house now. So I am going specifically into the SQL Analytics endpoint. And this is where you will typically curate and query your data further. So let's say we wanted to curate our data in such a way that products that are used for writing are all categorized as writing tools. Now, I am not a SQL expert per se, but that's where we have Copilot. So getting started with Copilot again, we're going to ask Copilot to write a SQL query for us that will analyze the orders for the last 2 years of products such as pens, S pens, pencils, but also grouping those products into a category called a writing tools. Now, this might be a little bit more of a complicated prompt, so it may take a bit longer to get back to us, but we got the script. So we insert the code, right? And we hit run. Right. So I am going to just expand that a bit. And here you see we have the product categories with the total quantity that would have been ordered. And if you look closely, there are no products that would be used for writing outside of this writing tools product category. And here you can also look at how much of the other product categories would have been ordered as well. And this should be across the entire date. Oh, this is in the last 2 years. So if you want to fine tune it, you can keep talking to Copilot and fine tune your queries and get specific results depending on what exactly you need. So with that, I'm going to switch over to our Power BI workload. So I'm going to come to the corner where the Fabric logo is, and I'm going to switch Power BI, and I'm coming back to our workspace. And just a quick background. Typically, the Power BI workload would be used by data analysts, report builders, and of course, the report consumers. So you would have a range of technical and non-technical users in this workload. So we are going to go to create visualizations, and we're going to choose the MSD report. Now, we are going to be looking at a pre-built report. So of course, we won't know the full context of the report, especially because we're new to the environment. So how can we get up to speed without having to spend too much time browsing through the report and trying to explore the report? How do we do that? We could simply ask Copilot to give us an executive summary of the report, which I am going to do right now. And Copilot is going to browse through the entire report, and it's most likely going to look at all of the information displayed on the visuals and let us get a high level understanding of what exactly is shown. Just confirming the visuals are created in Power BI. Yes, so this entire report would have been built using the Power BI workload in Fabric. So it would have been done through the browser primarily. So Copilot has returned to us that the MSD report for 2024 provides a comprehensive overview of sales, warehouse operations, and inventory management. Then it gives us a breakdown of the sales performance, quarterly sales insights, letting us know that Dominica leads in total quantity sold with 15,945 units. It gives us product category analysis, warehouse operations, inventory management. It even gives us a quick summary at the bottom, letting us know that the report highlights strong sales performance, particularly in high value product categories, and identifies areas for improvement in warehouse delivery rates. So that's all well and good, but let's say you are now in a meeting and our sales director wants to know which branch of MSD had the highest increase in sales between 2023 and 2024. So now it could be something that you look through the report for, but if you have Copilot, you could simply ask Copilot the question and let Copilot do the work for you. So again, we will have to give Copilot a chance because it has to go into the data, look through it, create the query based on what we've asked, and then return the result to us. Okay, so it's telling us that the branch that's managed by Melinda Grooves shows the highest increase in total order value between 2023 and 2024, and it gives us a value of 4,977,869. But I don't know what branch Melinda Grooves operates out of or what country she works out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow up with Copilot and ask, what country is Melinda Grooves assigned to? Because you can't just tell your sales director, Melinda Grooves branch would have had the highest increase. He's going to ask what country that is. So we can now tell our sales director, okay, Bahamas tends to be the branch with the highest increase, and Melinda Grooves is the branch manager for the branches that seem to contribute the most to the increase. And that increase would have been $4,977,869. So that's a pretty good answer that you can give in the space of like minutes. And any follow-up questions, you can put them into Copilot. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to look at getting some more information in terms of decrease in demand and operational impact. So I'm going to go into the inventory page. I'm going to drill through to Dominica's country analysis page. And this will be my last demo prompt. So just bear with me. And I'm going to clear this chat just for now. And we're going to ask Copilot, which product categories in Dominica saw a drop in sales in 2024, and what might be the operational impact if the trend continues? Now, this is a big prompt because we're asking 2 questions, so it might take a little bit longer than the others to come back. Okay. So Copilot is telling us that based on the available data, product categories in Dominica saw a drop in sales, such as the cabinets, the keyboards, laptops, TVs, etc. And what we're seeing here is that Copilot actually returned the sales value for 2024 and the sales value for 2023 for each product category. So I'm just going to try to expand my Copilot pane a little bit so that we could see those values better. Okay, and we have the expand answer option as well. And we get the entire table here. You could copy the table and you could put it into a document if you need to. And this DAX query here, for the more technical folks, you are seeing here the DAX query that Copilot would have run to return the answers that it gave to us. And to answer our last question, it's telling us that if the trend of dropping sales in a product category or in the product categories in Dominica continues, we'll see revenue decline. It actually quotes numbers for us. We'll see inventory management issues. We'll see operational efficiency affected. We'll see workforce adjustments. Supplier relationships will be affected. And it's saying to us that these conclusions are drawn from the provided data and should be considered as potential impacts based on the observed trends. So that brings me to this last point. It would be remiss of me not to remind you all that whilst AI and Copilot is amazing and it helps you to get answers really quickly, it's important to fact check the results given, as Copilot can make mistakes. So if I zoom in here, you'll see that Microsoft has provided a notice and it tells us that Copilot uses AI. Always review content for mistakes. And the more generic notice that you get when you now start a Copilot chat basically tells you that AI generated content can make mistakes and that you should make sure it's accurate and appropriate before using it. So that brings me to the end of my portion of the demo presentation. I'd like to take this time to say thank you for your time and for your attention. And I'll now pass you back over to Savannah.
Thank you very much, Jade. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, wonderful. So Jade took us on this lovely journey of using Copilot across the different workloads within Microsoft Fabric. Now, let's be real. Not everybody has time to go running down each of these workloads to get responses, even to generate a SQL query. Some people don't even care for some SQL queries. So in that instance, Microsoft recognized the importance of creating what's called data agent. What this data agent is going to do, this data agent is going to look at your entire data estate that you allow it to. It's not just free for all. You have to point it to where it can look at. It's going to look at that entire data estate and allow you to ask questions about that without having to get into the nitty-gritty of Microsoft Fabric. Is that true? To an extent. Let's see. So we were here where Jade showed you the workflow. And in our workflow, we have this analyze and train. So within here, we have what's called our MSD data agent. We created this data agent. Now, to create a data agent in Microsoft Fabric Workspace is quite simple. Right? So now I'm just going to pay attention to my screen on the side here. Right? So what you need to do is create new item. So you're going to select new item. Now, you're not going to have a favorite. So for my favorite is a data agent, but you can go all items, which is where you're going to be landed. You can search for agents. So if you search AGENT, you'll see data agent comes up, and then you'll be able to click on data agent, right? And then you'll be able to give it a name. So I can call it MSD agent, hit create, and it's going to create an agent for me. Now, I'm not going to create another agent. We are on a live demo. We don't want to give room for errors at this point in time. So I'm going to open the agent that we've created before. Yes, we had prompts in the agent before, but we're going to show how it's going to work. So what's going to happen here, this is our published agent. So you'll see up to the top, you see it's published. If your agent was in draft mode, you'll be able to expand the Explorer and add data sources, as well as choose the respective tables that you want to use for your sources. You must select tables. Right? Many of us make the mistake where we just add the source like, yes, I want my lakehouse, or you know what, I'd like to use my report, my semantic model. And when I do that and I ask a question, the agent returns like with no response because it doesn't see anything. And you're like, but I just told you what the source was. Like, no, you have to tell it what tables to choose. Right? Now, once you've chosen that, you can then create your prompts. You ask the question, it's going to provide you with some sort of response. Once you're happy with the response, you then publish. And most importantly, you're sharing. Why are you sharing? Because now you want everybody to benefit from not having to jump into every workload in Copilot. They can just simply go to the data agent and ask questions. So taking a step back to where Jane was at, she was looking at the Melinda Groves out of Bahamas because she was trying to respond to the sales director. Now, the sales director, on the other hand, could bother and say, you know what, I don't need to ask Jade anything. Let me go directly to my data agent. So the sales director could go to the data agent and say, okay, you know what? I would like to know who are the managers in Bahamas. He's going to send a message and let's give the agent some time to work on it. So it says he's working on it. And then it says, okay, the managers in Bahamas are Amy Smith, Melinda Groves, Liam King, all the way down to Billy Taylor's. Now, okay, that's good. We have a response. So then the next question would be, all right, so I can't remember off the top of my head. So this is the sales director saying this now. I can't remember off the top of my head how many warehouses they manage. So why not ask the question, right? So it's going to ask the question, and the agent is going to go back into the data, going to say, okay, let's find the warehouses that they manage. Now, as Jade pointing out, we are using AI. AI can provide you some lovely errors. Always remember that if you get an error, refine your question. Ask the question another way, rephrase it, change it around, and see what's going to give you the response that you need. All right. So we get the response saying that, okay, Amy is in charge of 4, Kingsley Black is in charge of 5, We have Phil, who's in charge of 4 as well. Belinda has 4. Taylor has 1. And Billy has 0. So, yes, okay, something's happening here with Billy. But we wouldn't run down the Billy issue just yet. We only have so much time for a demo. But we'd like to know, okay, so you've told us who the managers are, the warehouses that they manage. I'd like to find out. So Jade did an analysis that looked at how things would have changed from 2023 into 2024. But I'd like to go one step back again. So I'd like to find out what's the total value of all orders in Bahamas for 2022 instead. So it's going to send out that response into the system. It's going to do its analysis as well. And it's going to bring back a response. So it tells me now that the total value for all orders is 47 million in 2022 for Bahamas. Now, this is great. Now, some people on the call may be wondering, how is this data agent doing that? What it's actually doing, it's using what's called natural language, and it's converting it to SQL. So if I were to switch from my published to my draft, switching back to draft. So the draft is where you actually do all of your work. Right? You see all the stuff I would have asked before. All right, so I would have asked the question I'm about to ask, I asked it before, but I'm going to do it again. So it's taking what you ask, it's converting it into a SQL query, and it's bringing a response for you. So we all remember Jane would have asked it to analyze this thing about writing tools. So instead of asking it to give us a SQL query, as the sales director, I don't want a query, I want a response. So sales director is going to say, okay, just analyze all the orders from the last 2 years and group these products for me. Now, if, for example, you didn't know the products, you could also ask about the products as well. But for now, we've taken it that we've understood the products and the categories. So we just want to create this writing tools category. So I'm going to send this out, and it's going to run. All right, it's going to run. It's going to provide the same table you see on top, but now you get to see it in real time. Okay. Let's see what it's going to come back with. Still working on it. And I hope this is not the one that causes me to go back to what I did before. All right, there we go. So it comes back with a response. So now one thing to note, if this was cached in memory, it would have easily given me this response that was there before. But because of how fabric capacities work, if you pause your capacity to save on your cost, it clears out everything that's there in memory. So it would go and run and generate a new query, right? So that's one thing to point out for saving, but we'll get to licensing and spend it in a bit, right? But for now, let's just focus on this. So it analyzed it, it gave me a response, and now I can see, okay, if we want to make a real sales direction here, we can say, you know what, let's move to this new product, this newer product, which is the S with the common P, and do away with the older product because we seem to be doing a little better with this. And what's actually happening in the background is that when it asked that question, it actually created the SQL query in the background. And that's what happened with each request. Every request that you send to your data agent is converting it to SQL. If, for example, you're using real-time analytics within Fabric, it'll convert it to a KQL query. If, for example, I was speaking to my MSD reports, which is actually the semantic model for the report, it could actually create these things, turn a DAX query. So turn from regular natural language into DAX. And this is what's happening all within your data agent. Now, once you're finished with this data agent experience and you're satisfied with where you want to go, your automatic next step will be to publish it. So you'll hit the publish button. And once you hit publish, so let's go back to our published version. You'll hit the publish version and then you hit share. Once I hit share, I can choose to share this. So I see our sales director is actually Nicole. So I'm going to put Kevin. If I spell his name correctly. All right, so I'm going to share this with Kevin. I can share this with my team lead, who is Richard Khan. All right, and then I'm able to hit send. So I can send this as a notification this way. I can send it via Teams. I can copy the link. So I'm just going to hit send and they're going to receive that link and they will then be able to interact with the data agent I've created. But one thing to note, so to those security guys in the audience, if they do not have access to some areas of the data agent is going to tell them it cannot give them a response. And that's the power of having Microsoft Fabric, where your governance structure, once it is set, it travels all the way through all of the workflows and everything that you do within Microsoft Fabric. All right, so now that we have seen what this data agent is right now, I'd like to show you what Microsoft Vision, what it has coming, right? So let me just put this back into Microsoft Teams here. Just gonna switch back to the presentation so that we can then see what's Microsoft future, what they have planned for the future. Right, so that is the future that Microsoft is seeing for data agents, where you now have your data agent as part of your Microsoft Copilot experience, and it's available within Microsoft Teams or wheresoever you use Microsoft Copilot. Now, everything has a cost. And within Microsoft Fabric, cost is broken down in these two primary zones, your compute and your storage. Your compute is that, guys, when you see Copilot says working on it, it's because some virtual machine somewhere in the background that you don't know anything about is running and doing what it needs to do to generate some response for you. The storage layer is understood. Your data is going to be stored in the cloud. You're going to have to pay for that storage. Now, how Microsoft charges you for this compute and the storage is that your compute is a shared pool of capacity and it's a pay as you go, or you can reserve it for 1 year. Your storage, on the other hand, the storage cost is actually quite cheap because you pay for per gigabyte per month, and it's actually quite low. I've checked for 1 terabyte, and I will actually, if we do get to have sessions with you all individually, I'll be able to show you what that 1 terabyte of data stored within Microsoft Fabric actually looks like, right? And it's also pay as you go. So if you don't have a terabyte stored, you only have 100 gigs stored, you pay for whatever you have stored. Now, what are these Fabric capacity pricing like? Now, this is an estimate. Do not hold Microsoft to this, and this is based off of the US West 2 environment, or sorry, data center. So we have capacities that go from F2 to F2048. The F2 would be your lowest capacity, and you can pay as you go monthly, or you can reserve that to get like about a 40.5% saving based on your pay as you go. However, if you know you're not going to be using your capacity that much, as I told you before, you can pause your capacity. So you can say, okay, I want to reserve for $156, but you know that you're not going to be using it that much. You pause your capacity, and by the end of the month, your bill is probably way less than $156 a month. Right now, if for example, you know that you need a bigger capacity, you can always scale up according to your need and scale back down. That's how it works. Now, I'll skip this how it works because I've just described it in a bit. And I just want to focus on the specifics of Copilot and Fabric pricing. The Copilot and Fabric pricing is based off of tokens, right? So you see here that Copilot and AI, the input prompt is per 1,000 tokens and your consumption is 200 consumption units. So that slide that I said, I kind of skipped through, that's what we call your consumption units. Every time you send your prompt, you consume about 200 consumption units, but it all depends on how complex your prompt is. And the response generates 600 consumption units because it takes a lot to be able to do the response. So whatever converting from natural language to SQL, it will have to do that. So there's where it was going to push that back to you and you're going to consume this amount. So when you look at it across the month and you see your consumption within Microsoft Azure, because that's where your capacity resides, you're going to see for your Copilot and AI, how many tokens or how many consumption units you would have consumed for the month. Everything is based on monthly pricing. How do you enable it now? So you've seen a bit about Microsoft Fabric. You've seen Copilot in action in Microsoft Fabric. You probably have Microsoft Fabric running on, but you don't have Copilot enabled. How do you do that? Firstly, you need your administrator, or if you're the administrator, you need to ensure that it's actually turned on in your tenants. Now, newer tenants is actually coming by default. For older tenants, I believe you still have to turn it on. You need to make sure you have some sort of capacity. An F2 capacity, which is the smallest capacity, allows you to get Copilot. And F2048 allows you to get it, which is the biggest. So anywhere between that range, once you choose a capacity within that range for your need, Copilot is available for you. And for those who say, hey, that wasn't so before, that's correct. As of April, the end of April this year, Microsoft moved from you requiring to be an F64 to making sure now that anybody who's on a Fabric capacity can have Copilot, because we all see the benefit of having Copilot and AI. Outside of that, if you have people across different zones, you will need to make sure you enable that setting within your tenant, that if somebody is in the US and then somebody's in the UK, you know the government policies, make sure you allow them to be able to respond and ask questions of the AI. So that's something you need to enable in the tenant. And then lastly, right, Microsoft Copilot, it isn't supported on trial SKUs. So if you have a trial, you're not going to get Copilot. Even though your trial says it's an F64, you're not going to get Copilot, right? That sounds kind of sad, but it's true. If you have a trial SKU for Fabric, and by the way, trial SKUs for Fabric are a lot harder to get now, but if you have a trial, you will not get Copilot. You need the lowest capacity, which is an F2, to start having Copilot. Now, Daniil told you all that prices are going to be given out. Now, for prizes to be given out, it means somebody has to ask some sort of a question. So it is my responsibility now to ask these questions. Now, the questions are quite simple. I'm being very honest. It's just 3 questions in total. But as much as can participate, join in. So I'm going to present this in Teams now. You're going to see it load. Right, and I'm going to ask you, please put your name in a way where once the price is assigned to you, you're able to do it. Now, for those who can't interact with it within Microsoft Teams, you can scan the QR code with your phone and work with it that way. All right. Wonderful. So I'm just waiting now to see everybody join.
So should we tell them what the price is before we start the game?
That's not a problem.
All right, guys. So today we have 3 prizes: first, second, and third. And all of them are Amazon gift vouchers. So first place would be $60 Amazon gift card voucher. Secondly, we have $50, and third place would be $30 USD. So good luck, everyone, and enjoy.
Yes, and sadly, those who are presenting, we can't get those, right? So please enjoy when you get it. All right, so we have 28 players. Anybody else want to join in? If somebody else want to join in, let me just come back here. So now that you know what you're going to be getting, All right, so this is the QR code here. If as well, you can also see the code up the top where it says 1137 4226. All right. All right, so let's see how many players I have. I have 29 players. If I get to 30, I'll start. Once we have 30 players, we start. We have 29, one more person coming, and then we start. Right? You can use the code at the top, which is 1137. All right.
Imagine all the things you can buy with $60 US.
All right, well, I guess the last person doesn't want to come in. I'll go ahead. Now, mind you, while the game is going on, you can also still join in, but just know that you would have lost the opportunity to join out a question later on. All right. So let's go. Question number 1. It's a true or false question. Answer as fast as you can. You get more points. Fabric data agents cannot be shared. Is that true or is that false? Fabric data agent, it cannot be shared. Is that true or is that false? See, we have 11 people responded so far out of 29 people, right? Okay, so 2 people said it is true, 10 people said it is false. So the 10 people who said it is false, I'm very happy. It means you remember that. To the persons who got tricked, I apologize. But a fabric data agent can be shared. And if you remember, I shared it with our sales director, Kevin, and my team lead, Richard. All right, so let's go. Our next question. All right, so we have 29 players still. All right, going strong. Answer quickly to get your points. So, which workload does not have Copilot? So you're going to see a list of workloads here. Is it Data Factory? Is it Power BI? Is it Data Warehouse? Or is it none of the above? Which of these workloads don't have Copilot? Or maybe it's a trick question. We don't know. You tell me. That's correct. It's a trick question. So none of the above there could be labeled as not having Copilot. They all have Copilot with it. So for those who would have joined later on, you'll get the recording so you can go back through the beginning of the presentation. So Data Factory has Copilot, Power BI has, and the Data Warehouse. I actually pinpointed those 3 because Jade actually showcased Copilot working in there. All right, so to those 6 people who got that, let's go and see what you're looking at right now. So you'll know, because the last question is coming up, and you want to see how much more points you need to get. All right.
It is close.
It is very close. Wow. All right. Remember, it's all about how quickly you can respond. And this is our last question. I'm just giving you a hint. It's a true or false, right? True or false. So read it. Remember, true or false. Question number 3. Last question. Fastest gun wins. Copilot is available for all Fabric capacities. Is this true or is this false? Copilot is available for all Microsoft Fabric capacities. Is this true or is this false? We have 14 responses so far. And we have 3 seconds remaining. 2 seconds, 1, and that's it. So that's correct. It is true. All Fabric capacities has Copilot. So our winner.
Drum roll, please.
We're getting a little drum roll. I'm really sorry I didn't put any audio for this. It would have been a lot more fun. All right, so our winner is Bart.
Well done, Bart.
Bart.
Can you identify yourself, Bart?
You could always send a message to the new.
Bart, you have to let me know who you are so you can get your gift card. Otherwise, Sophania and I will enjoy it.
All right, the deal. I pass the floor back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so for first, second, and third place, I'll need you guys to either send me an email or let me know in the chat here so that we can send your gift cards to you. And that brings us to the end of today's presentation. I hope you guys learned a lot. As you can see, Copilot is doing big, big things, not just in Fabric, but in all aspects of Microsoft tools. So if you want to see how Copilot can work for your business, not just for Fabric, but for any other tool that you're interested in, you can scan this QR code for a personalized demo. And then we would arrange a meeting with you and the respective team so that we can find out more about your business and how we can help streamline processes and transform your company digitally. So thank you so much, everyone, once again for attending. You can check our website for more upcoming events, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Also, we have one question, Stefania, before we leave, from Christian Thompson. He asks, if I created a PBI using desktop, could I import the file into the flow? Also, is there an option to use Copilot on the PBI desktop? If no, any development on it?
That's actually a really good question. So I'm going to answer the question, Daniil, and I'm also going to tell the person to also scan the QR code so you can actually get done a personalized demo. So it does work, Copilot in Power BI Desktop. What it actually does, when you sign into Power BI Desktop with your account that has a Power BI Pro license, as well as you have a Fabric capacity running, be it F2 or F4, whatever capacity, Copilot in Power BI Desktop will ask you to tell you which workspace is backed by a capacity. Once you select that workspace, Copilot comes to life in Power BI Desktop, and you don't have to import it into the flow. Once you publish your report from Power BI Desktop to the workspace, in your workflow, you can see there's a little paperclip icon. You click that and you attach the report to it. All right, that's the process. But as I said, you can scan the QR code, and this is your chance to have that little personalized session so you can get to know more. All right, great question, by the way. All right, Denise.
Okay, so thank you guys. If you have any questions, if anything pop up later on, you can feel free to send any of us an email, or you can respond to the email that sends the webinar recording. So you guys should be getting that between today or tomorrow. And feel free to share, feel free to watch at your own discretion. Okay, so thanks again for joining us. You guys have a great week. Friday is also a holiday, so enjoy your holiday and long weekend. And we look forward to hearing from you guys really, really soon. Thank you and take care.